If you never know, I'm an island man with an African culture. No drugs, no in my bag.
Hey, when we dancing, hey, you are my king, I'm your queen. We don't have nobody in between.
Live from Toronto, this is DJ Eruption. You're listening to Sarojini from Caribbean Connections. Peace out.
Then you hold my bumper and grind slow, deep in.
I like I let go, yeah. Your bumper is a magnet. I stick on like a magnet. A magnet.
Yeah, it's magnetic. Join Sarojini on Caribbean Connections, Thursdays at 1. Walk through the sands with poetry from our great leaders and academics. Jive with us to soca, reggae, chutney, and calypso. Get your current cricket results, meet special guests, and more. Every Thursday, 11:30 Eastern, 1 p.m. Newfoundland time.
Baby, magnetic, that thing just sticking on, sticking on, sticking on, sticking on me.
Welcome to Caribbean Connections, everyone. And hey, I want to tell you all that we are coming to you live and in person from the studios of CHMR here on the campus of Memorial University of Newfoundland and Labrador in St. John's, Newfoundland. We want to thank you all for joining us here on the island of Newfoundland and Labrador. Our friends and family in Toronto, Winnipeg, Regina, Saskatoon, Calgary, Vancouver, and those on the Sunshine Coast in Roberts Creek and in Maple Ridge, all in British Columbia, crossing over to New York, Connecticut, Washington, D.C., Berlin, Germany, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and of course, my Caribbean peeps in Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Belize, the Bahamas. And to all of you listening from far and wide, we want to say welcome, welcome, and welcome. We want to let you know that here today on the program, we have a special guest, Dr. Delores Mullings, Professor of Social Work here at Memorial University. And also she is the Vice Provost here at Memorial for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Now, we're going to be hearing more from Dr. Mullings, but we're going to start off with this track from Bob Marley. You're going to hear Redemption Song.
Old pirates, yes, they rob I, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Ooh, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Oh, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop at the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Yes, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, all I ever had, redemption songs, these songs of freedom, songs of freedom.
All right, that was the one and only Mr. Bob Marley kicking off today's show. And that was a request by Dr. Mullins. That was Redemption Song. So today on the program, we have Dr. Delores Mullings. Dr. Mullings is a member of a large extended family, mother of 2 living Black queens, sister, friend, and second daughter, and caregiver of Maddah Mullings, her original feminist. She's a professor of social work and Memorial University's inaugural Vice Provost of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. She has demonstrated extensive content expertise in human rights and equity leadership in community-based organizations and academic institutions. Her interdisciplinary scholarship explores decolonizing post-secondary education, mothering, mental health and wellness, LGBTQ plus concerns, the Black church, elders, migration, and community engagement using critical pedagogies, in particular anti-Black racism, Africentric theory, and critical race theory. Dr. Mullings is also the recipient of the YWCA Women of Distinction Award for Education and Mentorship, the recipient of Memorial's University President's Award for Outstanding Teaching. She's an honoree on the 100 Black Accomplished Women. She's the former Interim Associate Dean Undergraduate Programs and former Chair in Teaching and Learning at Memorial University School of Social Work. Welcome to Caribbean Connections, Dr. Mullings, and thank you for taking the time away from your busy schedule to be here with us to celebrate Black History Month.
Thank you so much. This is absolutely awesome to be here. Thank you for the invitation. We're all busy, so we just choose to spend our time where we think it's most important, and I think community and campus radio is critical.
Thank you for that. And just before we start, you and I were talking that CHMR has been on the radio since 1954, started by radio enthusiasts in a small classroom. We grew from there. We started with AM, and one moment, please. Yes, sorry, Dr. Mullings, I didn't have your mic on there. I do apologize, but yes, thank you for coming with us here today. You can go on.
It is my pleasure to be here. You had mentioned that we're busy. All of us are busy, I would say. And I'm happy to spend my time here with you because community and campus radio is vital.
Thank you for that. And sorry, but I had a mic on, but not yours. But now we can all hear you. And thank you, Rhea, for pointing that out to me. Well, we are a campus and community radio station. I was telling Dr. Mullins earlier that we've been around since 1954. So here we are today, many years later. And you know, everyone, we have a wonderful program lined up for you, and I hope you will stay with us. Dr. Mullins has a lot to say, but we will make it fun and interesting, and I'm just so honored to have her here on the program. And so, without further ado, let us begin. So, Dr. Mullins, you know, I'm always curious, and I know many of our listeners are too. I know you were born and raised in Jamaica. So tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in Jamaica.
Wow, this is such a joyous question. You know, Jamaica will always be a part of who I am, no matter where I go in the world. You know, when I go home, I'll say home in quotation because home is where you're at. Mm-hmm. But when I go home to Jamaica and my feet touch on the land that I used to roam as a child, or, you know, I put my toes or my body in the water that, you know, we bathed in, washed our clothes in, drank from, you know, there's nothing like that. It just really touches my soul. So, you know, I'm a country girl. I grew up in the country.
So what part of Jamaica then would that be?
Yeah, Hanover. For much of my life, I grew up in Hanover. You know, I was in Montego Bay, big city, for a while. I was always a little bit scared of the big city. I guess that's part of why I like smaller towns right now. But, you know, I grew up in rural Jamaica in Hanover. And, you know, I grew up with my parents and siblings and extended families, aunties, uncles, blood and non-kin folk. You know how it is in the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I had such a fabulous childhood. You know, we had ground provisions. Mm. You know, we were free to roam the lands. We ate food. I was a climber. I was a tree climber. Ooh. You know, and I was a ball player as well. Wow. I think this is what they call dodgeball here. We just call it ball.
Ah, okay.
You know, and so yeah, I just really had a fabulous childhood. Lots of love. You know, I had two mummies that were fighting over me, kind of like, where was I going to live? And I had siblings that, you know, even, you know, one of my siblings is still one of my best friends today. So, you know, we worked the land. So that's why you hear me talk about liking the land. We did a lot of work with water. You know, we use water. I mean, when I say rural, I mean rural. We didn't have indoor toilets, you know. We didn't have running water. We didn't have electricity, you know. But I still remember, you know, my maternal grandmother telling us stories by moonlight.
Wow.
And us. Do you remember? Did you do this?
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember when my parents would go away, we would have like the elders. We never had young people coming to babysit. And we used to sit around and they would tell us stories, like usually folk tales.
Yes.
And if we can do it outside, the better.
Yes. Yes, I remember that. And even we used to play Moonshine Baby or Moonshine Dolly, we used to call it, but that's where we took broken crockery, so plates, cups that were broken.
Right.
As children, we broke them into smaller pieces, and the white ones, when it's moonlight, you know, we would lay down and put them around our bodies, then get up and you'd see the arms outstretched and the legs.
Wow.
And so we call that a moonshine baby.
Oh, not like the other moonshine, but this is a different type of moon.
No, we were not allowed any kind of moonshine.
Yeah. Oh, my, that is so wonderful.
Definitely.
Oh, my gosh. I just had that picture in my head, you know. The Caribbean would always be dear to my heart, but like you said, home is where you're at. And I do believe you. Like yourself, we've lived in Canada most of our lives now, but that place will always have a soft spot. So thank you for that story. That was enlightening. Now, here you are in rural Jamaica, moonshine baby. Did you know you always wanted to leave Jamaica to pursue studies or anything in particular?
Absolutely not. So you might know some of the stories around the Caribbean and migration. So migration in the Caribbean region was necessitated by colonial plunder of the land, where people's connection to the land and the natural resources was disrupted. Not just Jamaica, but all over the Caribbean.
Correct.
Yeah. And so it necessitated people, because they couldn't make a living off the land anymore. When we were children, we grew our own food, we catch fish, or, we'd go to the market once a week and, we'd buy from people,
Mm-hmm.
But it got to a point where people couldn't really live off the land anymore. And, there's a video documentary called Life and Debt, and it chronicles some of Jamaica's struggles with people not being able to feed themselves off the land because of imperialism and colonial rule. Mm-hmm. And so, one of my mummies, let me just say, migrated on the Caribbean domestic scheme in 1968. And she would later sponsor my father, her brother. Mm-hmm. My father then sponsored my mother, and who then sponsored the children and other relatives. Mm-hmm. So imagine my chagrin, as a teenager, being plucked from being able to roam the land, warm, sunny, beautiful, climbing trees, picking mangoes, pineapple, bathing in the river, to landing on this what I didn't even know what
they call it the land of milk and honey.
I remember that, and I thought, let me see now.
Where is the milk and honey?
So I was not impressed. In fact, my dad was the one who came to bring us to Canada, and I wanted to pack all my special things, and I wanted to pack my uniform, and he said, no, kids in Canada don't wear uniforms, and I was just not able to understand that. Yes. And I gave him a lot of trouble because I didn't want to move. And when I say trouble, I was a bit mouthy. Mm-hmm. We weren't able to do things like that, but I thought I was growing up and I was going to be mouthy and and insisted that I wasn't going and those kinds of things. And then he just said some things to me that made me realize like I didn't really have a choice.
Yes.
And so I dressed in my new fancy midriff skirt and my crop top. Ooh. And had my hair up very nicely and came to Canada and then stepped out in an October winter.
Wow. What port did you arrive at?
Pearson.
Wow. So you were in Toronto first. Mm-hmm. Oh my, yeah. Mm-hmm. October would be cool.
It was cool.
For a Caribbean gal, it certainly would be.
And I was wearing a crop top.
Oh, well, Delores. Ooh. Yeah, I know. Like here, I know. At that time, I remember seeing photos of people coming to Canada, the 60s and 70s, and people were in their best.
Yes.
Like whatever you consider your best, your crop top, your mini skirt, the guys would wear suits, and these are 18-year-olds, and this is how people flew. They flew in their best outfits. So when they land in these industrialized nations and countries for a better life, they're showing up well presented now. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, people can't wait to travel with sweats, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you keep yourself warm, and what did you do?
Well, the parents brought coats. You know how it is when you're coming.
Right.
They have, warm things for us and hats and those kinds of things. We just thought, this is ridiculous. Like, nobody can live like this, right? And so, we managed. Mm-hmm. I'm here. You cannot, what I always say is you cannot move a teenager across the street. if you have a home and you're going to move, and you're moving just down the road, the teenager is just not going to like that. Maybe younger ones too, but the teenagers, because it's, at that time it's this coming of age piece, right? So you move now, teenagers, worlds apart.
Yes.
And then, asking them to adjust. Cold turkey, basically, right? And so we managed, it's lucky. We were lucky that we had, our siblings. Our parents didn't understand anything about the school system whatsoever. And they were busy working hard,
Yes, in Toronto.
In Toronto, and they just basically said, just go listen to the teacher. We didn't even know what to wear to school. Imagine my shock when I turned up to school and the students looked like the teacher. I couldn't tell who was who.
I know. I sort of had that same feeling. People had looked older here compared to the Caribbean. Now I'm used to it after all these many years. But yeah, I sometimes wondered if I was in the wrong class.
Me too. Me too. I just didn't know who was who.
Yeah.
And students were wearing high-heel shoes and lots of makeup and, fancy clothes. I just thought, wow, just give me my uniform.
Yeah, I know, and we were the same. And I remember every Sunday we used like a white shoe dye. We would have to dye the running shoes. We called them yachting shoes back then for our phys ed. And we have to clean the black shoes and wear the white socks, because teachers will tell you if you didn't look right. It's sort of military style when I look back. But yeah, life was probably very different. Did you find adjusting was all right? You were guided, you were coach, mentored, you sort of navigated the system in an okay fashion?
We navigated by ourselves. Our parents, first of all, were busy working. They were busy working. So I lived with one of my mummies, and my siblings, one of my mummies with one of my cousins. So this auntie raised two brothers' children. So I live with my cousin, who I call my sister, with my auntie, who I call my mom. Right?
Yes, got it. And this was quite common back then, where people would come and you would not necessarily be with your own family, but with cousins and aunties and uncles. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I lived with my biological mother for some parts of my life, and I lived with my auntie, for some parts of my life. And so she was working two jobs. This is not unusual for black women to be working two jobs. So she's working her full-time job and she's moonlighting, not the moonlighting that we knew before.
Right,
she's
got it.
Also, so we barely saw her. And so we were left on our own, make your lunch. And this was foreign too, because even in Jamaica, when we were older, our parents still made the lunch, because if we were bringing lunch to school, and sometimes we didn't have money to purchase food, so if you were wealthy or had a little bit more money, you got lunch money every day. So when we got lunch money is when there was a little bit more money in the home. Otherwise, we got cooked food. So my mom or my auntie, whichever one I lived with at the time, would cook the food and parcel it up in nice containers for us to bring to school. Of course, we didn't like that, because that meant we didn't have money, so we were poor. So nobody wanted to look poor. So, I used to eat my lunch before I got to school.
Oh,
right?
my,
So as a child, right? But here in Canada, you're sort of like, our parents, reminded us that here is the bread and the whatever, and, make your lunch and carry this and that. And of course, they had cafeteria as well.
Yes.
With lots of different terrible food. That's the first time my experience with seeing food that was just not fit for consumption in my brain at the time, because I was just thought, wow, this is not good. But we managed, we navigated through high school, had some negative experiences, and you know what? Those negative experiences served me well, because it made me stronger, gave me more determination, and it helped me to be a more resilient person. I don't want to say, those times were not harmful or hurtful. And I just know that I wasn't the only person to have experienced some of those things, like being corralled into certain level of education, being told that, I can't do this thing or that thing, or why don't I do this other thing? Or know that, this subject would be too hard for me, or, those kinds of things, right? Or just other things, I even remember sitting in class and my favorite English teacher, my favorite teacher, before I met Mrs. Grooms, was Mrs. Prothero.
Wow, and you remembered her name.
I do. She
Fantastic.
had such an impression on me, because that was, and this is how I know that teachers make a difference, because Mrs. Prothero made such a difference to me in how I would continue to love reading and to love writing and English, because I love those things in Jamaica. But I remember reading a text called The Black Donnelly. This was a text about an Irish family. And initially I thought, the Black Donnellys, they're black? I thought they were black people.
Yes.
Now I understand how anti-blackness works. It has nothing to do necessarily with race. It's not anti-black racism, it's anti-blackness, which is why the Donnellys were called the Black Donnellys, because they were considered not white, right? So, but I was confused. I'm like, the Black Donnellys, and then I realized they were white, and I'm like, what is happening? Why are they called, Mrs. Prothero, though she didn't understand the nuances of anti-blackness and colonization, she really helped me to navigate that. And then, of course, we read, what was that other one with Attica? To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes.
I mean, I just wanted to crawl under my desk, split the ground open and crawl in the ground, when we were reading that. It was very traumatizing for me to read, be a part of a class to read that. And so I, and she helped me. Again, she really helped me through those spots.
Yes, and this shows the impact teachers have on students, which we'll talk about the topic here today, which we will move on and talk about decolonizing post-secondary education in the classroom. But before we go on to that, and thank you for these beautiful stories, they brought back beautiful images in my mind as well, from things that happened back home too and coming to Canada. So thank you. So we're going to step up here and ask you, what brought you to Newfoundland and Labrador, and in particular, Memorial University?
That's a great question. So what I can say is a friend of mine, Dr. Heather Hare, who's now retired from the School of Social Work, she and I went to what I call PhD school. That's how I just say we did our doctoral work together. And she was here, and, she saw the position advertised, and I said, I am not looking at that because there's no black people there. And she said, oh, no, there are black people here. There's more than you think. And she said a few other things. She went off and, found a place that sells food that I could purchase and those kinds of things. And I came, looked at the place, had my interview, really liked it, and really fell in love with the landscape. There were pieces of this land that reminds me of Jamaica. When it's a good day and it's a nice sunshiny day, and you're surrounded by the water and you can see the sun either coming up in the morning or in the middle of the day is just shining on the water, or at night either the sun is setting. It's just nothing like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The ancestors, I guess, were talking to me and to the land as well, because they made it so that I would love it. It was so nice and warm when I came that I just thought, what are they talking about? This place isn't cold.
Not now. You must have been here in August or summertime. You're talking.
It's interesting because I came in May.
Okay.
And it was fabulous that May. And when I would move in August,
it's cold.
That was going to foretell what things might have been like for some time, because it was frigid.
Oh, wow.
We turned up, one day we went out in shorts and we realized that we needed winter clothes in August.
Yeah.
But I was determined to have an impact on social work education. From the moment I went back to school as a mature student, I thought education needs to be done differently. And I thought, I don't see myself in this. I don't see the people around me in this education that, is unfolding in front of me. And how can I contribute and impact? So there and then, in my first year of social work, I decided that I wanted to be a social work teacher. And the reason for that was because I wanted to help transform social work education so we could help transform social work practice. Because the education determines the kind of practice that happens in the field, right? So I wanted to be a part of that. It was important to me. And I was willing to move almost anywhere within reason. Also because, as a Black woman who was parenting my youngest daughter alone at the time, not so much alone, I had community support in terms of my mother and siblings and cousins and so forth. But I also wanted some security. I knew that I didn't want to be on the precarious work track. I saw a lot of Black women on that track in lots of the universities. They were doing piecemeal work. And I was reminded of the fact that my auntie came here as a domestic worker and moved herself up and out of that kind of work so that she could have, full-time, gainful employment as we think about it. And so I knew that I had to follow in her footsteps and do the best I could for myself. And if she moved all the way from Jamaica to come and work in white people's homes and look after their children and older people, I could certainly move across the country. And what about my ancestors who unwillingly were brought into the Americas, in parts of Europe? And I just thought, this is nothing.
Yes.
I'm walking in big shoes.
Exactly. And so you decided, I am going to make that move.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you did, because what you have done for all of us here at Memorial and for the department has been very impactful. So thank you for coming. And how many years ago was that?
Almost 15.
Oh, wow.
Almost 15.
Yeah.
On this land that's borrowed, stolen, not mine, has been good to me. There have been bumps and struggles along the way, but this land has been good. And I've had some very, very good, strong, positive experiences along the way as well.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm very happy that you did say that, because I know even the rest of Canada, you say Newfoundland and they know so little. But when you come here, you realize the joke's on them. We're the ones that know a lot, Now, we're going to move right into your topic. We can go on forever, I can tell, but I do want to get some great topics in here for you to tell us all about them. I looked at some of your talks, and very inspirational and inspiring all at the same time. But I know, and we all know, you're on a quest to transform post-secondary education in the classroom. So what is colonized education and what is decolonizing post-secondary education? Tell us a bit about that.
Thank you for that question. And teaching and learning is just buried in my soul. I so enjoy helping people to come to a place of understanding education, its impact, and what they can actually do with whatever education they have. And I also see it as a reciprocal process, is that people who are in classrooms, whichever classroom it is, wherever they go, they don't show up with nothing in their heads, right? they show up with a lifetime of knowledge and experience. So for me, a part of decolonizing education is to recognize that. Is that, yes, there are people who have gone to school, who've been placed in front of a classroom somewhere to help, participants, students in the classroom learn some things. And that's what they are to me, is helping them to learn. So how I look at a colonized education is, first, there is the assumption that students and participants, I'll just say students or participants or learners, I'll just use those different terms to mean the same thing. The colonized education assumes that these students are showing up and they know nothing. And the classroom is situated in a particular kind of way to encourage or discourage conversations between and among students, and between students and the person who is placed at the front of the room as the educator, teacher, facilitator, guide, or coach. And so the content is also primarily of a colonial essence or background. So if you think of a psychology course or sociology, and what the content of that is, it's predominantly people of European descent, most of them dead, most of them men, the content, where the content is. And it really doesn't matter which subject matter it is. That's how it shows up.
You mentioned the Eurocentric perspective. So this is what you're talking about.
So that's what I'm talking about, is that the ideas, sensibilities, experiences, knowledge of people from European background, and specifically white people from a certain kind of European background too, that's who show up in most of our classes, no matter what the subject matter is. Those are the people who are being quoted. The way the classroom is scheduled as well, or is structured as well, is colonial, in that most cultures around the world, most indigenous cultures, parts of Africa, in Latin America, North America, when people are learning, they're sitting in circles. Remember I was telling you about Moonshine Baby, and you remember your elders?
Yes.
People are sitting around in circles,
Right.
Until the colonialist shows up and says, oh, no, this is the way you do education, and you structure your education space this way so that you can squeeze as many people in it as possible, and you have the one person who is the knower dispel material onto everybody. So one person speaks, right? So that's the notion. I mean, there are multiple pieces to this colonized education, but those are some of the pieces.
So why do you think it's important to decolonize and transform these colonial spaces? And I know you talk about getting everybody involved, and from your research, what do you feel and why do you feel it's important?
So, and I just want to make just clarify that my experience is within post-secondary institutions. So when I speak, this is what I'm speaking about. I don't have any experience in facilitating education to primary age students and things like that.
Okay.
So things may be different.
Got it.
I suspect that some of it would be similar. Why? So if you remember, this kind of education that's been instituted in the hallowed halls of academe really was not meant for you and I and Nan and Papi and their grandchildren. It wasn't. It was meant for people who had money and who had leisure time to pontificate and talk to each other. And remember, this kind of education was male-dominated and focused as well. right? So this is how you know it wasn't meant for regular folks, everyday people who want to learn something. And I think what happened is as populations grew bigger and people started becoming more involved in wanting to learn, we just continued, or the same structure just continued. You just piled more people into spaces. And now, even, at a post-secondary level, we are still piling more and more people, but more bums in seats, right? Mm-hmm. That's a colonial way of thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And so what I see is that the opportunity for students, learners, participants to learn from each other is significantly reduced. And I know some people say, oh, let's just do some group work. Mm-hmm. And that group work normally is very structured as well, around colonial lines. So the teacher will say, okay, here we're going to do a group work for 20 minutes, and, this is what I'd like for you to do, right? So it's still structured in a particular way, and it's still the teacher that's driving the agenda, and it's still the students who are assuming to not know how to manage themselves in a small group. Mm-hmm.
So what do you propose to make students more involved, more aware, become better students? Because, I hear it from, or heard it from my kids, from other parents' children, that their children were suffering, and you talked about a lot of people learn differently. Mm-hmm. That structured classroom, as you're saying, this colonized way of thinking and teaching, this isn't meant for everyone. People learn by visual means as well. So what would you propose that they do to make it better for all these post-secondary students?
Mm-hmm. So first, I want to acknowledge that there are challenges within the educational structures right across the world. There are more people coming to school, more people want to get a higher education, more people want to do lots of different things in these spaces. There is also, based on maybe government or philanthropy or different ways of, getting money to support students, though there are challenges there as well. Not just here in this province, again, right across the world, right? So I just want to say that up front. Got it. Like, whatever it is we want, we can't have right away. But what I say regularly is that Africa was not destroyed in a day. It took centuries for colonial rule to break down the resources, to steal land, to occupy land, to steal education, to steal knowledge. Centuries. So in order for us to consider decolonizing post-secondary education, it will take, hopefully not centuries, but it'll take some time. Because the people who are making the decisions about education are also stressed, and there are tensions around how to balance budget, have the best teachers, have the best resources, and those kinds of things, right? So education is not, for me, a decolonial education is not just about you're sitting in the classroom. Indigenous peoples talk about land-based education. When I was a child in Jamaica, probably when you were a child too, we were educated on the land. They took us outside and showed us things. I understood the process, with the butterfly,
the monarch?
metamorphosis. I understood that on the land by the teacher showing us how that happened.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes.
So land-based education where people don't have to memorize things and regurgitate things. When you are confined to spaces, having students be a part of the solution, ask them what they want. They will tell you what they want. Let them contribute to, the course curriculum. I know every university, they have rules around what the teacher, whoever is in charge of the course, they need to come with an outline, and it has to be ready by this time, and so on, so on, so on, so forth. And that's fine. And there's still an opportunity to ask students, what do you want to learn? And what's the way that you learn? When I ask students that I get, sometimes I used to ask them before the class starts, you know, what do you want to learn? Send it in to me. Or I ask it at the very first class. And they always responded. They always responded. Even if they didn't respond before the class starts, by the time the class begins, every single person has responded. And sometimes what I do is I used to make it a part of an assignment, 10%. You know, and students were right into it. They told me what they wanted to see. The other thing is community. You know, it brings students outside in the community. So there's land-based, but there's also community-based. And collaborate with communities to do what communities need, because there are tons of communities, you know, not-for-profit organizations that just don't have the capacity, financial, people, resources to do certain kinds of things that students can do. You know, and so I have had great success, and I'm sure lots of other people have had great success with helping students to partner with community organizations and accomplishing some of the things that they want. And then the most important part of that learning is having students reflect on that as they're going and at the end. Because with that process, you'll see that they've learned a lot more than if I was talking at them for 2 hours.
Wow. Right. And you actually mentioned in one of your talks that I saw not too long ago, once the system is transformed, it will never be what it used to be. And you also went on to say education should not be a spectator sport. Like, again, one person in front, you're listening. So is this what you mean, like transformation?
It's a part, and lots of people have been doing community-based work or decolonizing work here at MUN and across the country and across the world, right? The South African students had a activism and action that sent the people in that part of the world back to the drawing board and the University of South Africa, I'm thinking about. But the students basically said, we're tired of this colonial type of education, and we want to see things that reflect our own realities and the people that we are and where we want to go from here. So that's a part of decolonizing as well. You need to have people reflected in the education process that are according to the world population, not just where you live. You know, maybe where you live, there aren't a lot of older people, or maybe there are a lot of older people like this province. But you need to have content that reflects, even if you don't have the physical person sitting in the room, you need to have content that reflects life around you. Right?
And, you know, I made some good points here when you talk about, and you're mentioning it here, in a transformational classroom, the professor would also recognize his or her power. And for instance, you talk about in a transformational classroom, you sit amongst the students. You ask the students, like you said, for their participation. Let them talk about the curriculum. What do they want to see? You facilitate, guide, and coach throughout the classroom. Share ideas, located in groups. And then we can't forget you're saying that students are rock stars, and they need to know that. I stole that from you, by the way. So do you see some of these, many or all, being implemented at any given time when we talk about decolonizing post-secondary education?
I think it's happening already. So I'm not the only person that's done it. There are people who are doing it and who continue to do it here and, you know, in lots of other spaces. And I think, you know, whoever the professor is, he, she, him, they, or them, this piece around power, I can say it's important because power, it's complicated, right? And it's nuanced. So if you are, I'm going to say, I'm a black woman. I identify as a black woman. So there are notions around anti-black racism that has impacted me in the classroom. But I'm also the person who gives the grade. So you see how the power vacillates from one end to the next. It's never static. So the professor may be at the front of the room, but they may also not be given or, let's just say in quotes, allowed to have that power that's given to them as a person in front of the classroom, if you understand what I'm saying. So women in certain spaces, for example, depending on what the program is, are not given as much respect as men may be, you know? And so women may have the power there, but the way the students treat them, you know, the way administrators may treat them, may reduce the power that they're able to see themselves having in the classroom. So it's very nuanced, this whole piece around power. But generally speaking, there is power in being in the classroom. And so students are almost always afraid of not getting a good grade or failing. So that is power.
Right. So you think some of these students might be afraid of their grades or marking? So you also went on to talk about peer grading. And for students, especially those going to college and university, grades for them at that point is everything. So
and this is a part of the colonized education as well, is that we have gone to a point where education has become about a grade. I mean, I've had students say to me, I'm just here for a grade, or I just want to have this on my resume or my CV so that I can move up to get another job somewhere else, because I can't have a job unless I have an MSW, for example. So now education, for some people, it's not even gathering knowledge or expanding yourself or growth. It's about getting a letter behind your name or on top of your name so that you can, you know, get a job or excel somewhere else. And by itself, I mean, people make decisions for themselves, whatever they need to. I'm not pathologizing that. I'm just saying that that too is a part of the colonial process, where we've come to this place where we've taught by the way that we structure education that really the marks are the most important. So in graduate school, we've said unless you have a certain mark, you can't get in. So of course that's transferred to students who now want a grade even when they haven't earned it or they haven't done the work to earn that grade that's going to get them into grad school, right? And so that's what I mean, is that we really need to be thinking about education. What is it, you know? And for me, I wish we didn't have number grades or letter grades. I wish we had pass-fail or completion or not completion or something like that, because it would flatten the structure. It would reduce the power as well in the classroom, both ways. And it would allow people that are wanting to expand themselves educationally to actually learn.
Absolutely. And you know what? We can go on for another hour, and I would still not finish asking you all my 7 pages. But I know that we have limited time, and not to cut you short or anything. And I know we brought up some very, very important points, but we've got a few minutes left before we clue up. I know you talked about many things in your talks. You know, I watched some on YouTube. You talked about levels of languages, environmental challenges, social, cultural, and racial challenges, teaching styles, students learn by exams, all of these things. You know, most classrooms are structured lecture style. What can we do to improve them? But given everything you said today and what you know is happening like right now in our province, to end things off today, what can you say to help teachers and anyone else, parents who are struggling with their children and can't figure out what's wrong with them? What do you have to say to everyone about that?
Well, First of all, nothing is wrong with any student. Right?
Thank you for that.
Nothing is wrong with any student. We simply have structured education in a way that does not work for everybody, and it cannot work for education. It cannot be universal in the way that we try to support people to learn and grow. And so what I would encourage teachers and learners who are interested in having education be structured differently. And this includes labs and the sciences and mathematics and physics, because sometimes people think you can do that with social sciences, but you can't do that with natural sciences. You actually can. There's lots of literature and research out there about how you can actually implement student-centered learning regardless of the subject matter. And so I would just encourage teachers and learners to trust themselves, step out of their comfort zone or move out of their comfort zones, because in that place you're guaranteed not to excel, not to get to your best selves, and not to aspire to be who you want to be down the road or now. And to collaborate. There are lots of people who are doing decolonized work here at Memorial, across the country, across the world. Reach out and collaborate. You don't have to do this alone. You're never alone. You're not alone. And my grandmother used to say, nothing beats trying but failing to try.
I like that. Say that again, one more time.
Nothing beats trying but a failure to try.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Mullings, on behalf of myself, Caribbean Connections, and CHMR, we would like to thank you so very much for sharing your time here with us today, for this enlightening conversation and such a fascinating topic, decolonizing education in the post-secondary classroom. Congratulations on the first Vice Provost of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion here at Memorial University. We wish you continued success, and we want to see more of this being discussed. So thank you. Thank you very much again.
It is my greatest pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Walk good.
Thank you, and stay blessed. And to you, my wonderful people, thank you for joining me today on our third part in the series of Black History Month. Join us again next week at 1 p.m. when our guest will be the one and only Chef Michael Collins, co-owner of the new restaurant in town called Caribbean Caribbean Corner. And I'm on Caribbean Connections telling you about Caribbean Corner. So please stay well, be safe out there. There's a lot of snow. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other. And we're going to have Queen Africa take us out today with Lioness on the Rise. Bye for now, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Time
All right, you have been listening to Anissa and the Supertone, and that was Warrior. And this is Queen Africa and Lioness on the Rise. Thank you for listening today, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
We'll be taking care of all the children thereof. But if it's required, we'll be on the front line. You can call me by my name. I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. Lioness is on the rise, don't you ever have doubt. Never say never, willingness forever to fight and be strong. Once it's for better, I'll write every letter and moving right along. And I'll roll with the punches, accept changes, work with the formula, do what I have to do. And call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. Lioness is on the rise, don't you ever have doubt. When you are willing to serve, we have room to observe, to see if you can walk the walk you told. Let me give you my word, my voice must be heard. Bravery is a piece of my heart. Call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. A lioness is on the rise, don't ever have no doubt. When the roll is called up, we'll be standing taller to face the darkest and the hardest of time. We'll be taking care of all the children thereof. But if it's required, we'll be on the front line. You can call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me, never anytime, lioness is on the run. Don't you ever call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime,
This is 93.5 CHMR FM.
Run it. This one the hit, yo. Lady Sarojini. Bless up everyone. This is Jordan Ben from Jamaica here representing for the host, Lady Sarojini with the Caribbean Connection Show. Hey, power 93.5 FM CHMR 11. I'm another criminal, so get on your searching. But let me tell you though, if you never know, I'm an island man with an African culture. No drugs, no in my bag.
Yes, we're jamming with Sarojini on Caribbean Connections, 93.5 FM, CHMR.ca.
Hi, this is Vinod from New York City, and you're listening to Sarojini on the Caribbean Connections.
Oh yeah. Your bumper is a magnet. I stick on like a magnet.
Yeah, it's magnetic. Join Sarojini on Caribbean Connections, Thursdays at 1. Walk through the sands with poetry from our great leaders and academics. Jive with us to soca, reggae, chutney, and calypso. Get your current cricket results, meet special guests, and more. Every Thursday, 11:30 Eastern, 1 p.m. Newfoundland time.
Welcome again to the second portion of Caribbean Connections. And as you know, we're celebrating Black History Month all of February. We have interviews during the first half, and we've very carefully selected and curated a wonderful musical program here for you, and we hope that you will certainly enjoy it. So without further ado, let's start off today's program, part 2, with African Race by Abyssinians.
descendants from the African race, the African race, the African race. We are the slave descendants from the African race. We're proud, it's no disgrace. Our forefathers were taken away, taken away, taken away. They were bound in ships and shackled all the way, like baggage and brought to the west. They swapped my brother and I, also my sister too, for a drink of wine so they could drink and be merry, so they could drink and be merry. together now. That's why we can understand. That's why we can understand. We are the slave descendants from the African race. The African race, the African race. We are the slave descendants from the African race. We're proud, it's no disgrace. We're proud of the African race. We're proud, it's no disgrace. We're proud of the African race. We're proud, it's no disgrace. We're proud.
Young, gifted and black. Oh, what a lovely, precious dream. To be young, gifted and black. Open your heart to what I mean.
In the whole world, you know, there's a boys and girls who are young,
Gifted and black. Ain't that so sad? Young, gifted and black. We must begin to tell all young. There's a world waiting for you. Yours is a quest that's just begun.
when you feeling real low. Yeah, there's a great truth you should know. To be young,
Gifted and black. Your soul's intact.
all young.
Young, gifted and black. Oh, how I long to know the truth.
There were times
When I look back, and I am haunted by my youth.
but my joy of today is that we can all be proud to say, to be young,
Gifted and black is where it's at. Young, gifted and black. We must begin to tell our young. There's a world waiting for you. Yours is a quest that's just begun.
when you feeling real low. Yeah, there's a great truth you should know. When you are
Young, gifted and black. Your soul's intact. Young, gifted and black. Oh, how I long to know the truth. There were times when I look back, and I am haunted by my youth.
but my joys of today is that we can all be proud to say, to be young.
Gifted and black is where it's at. Is where it's at. Is where it's at. Is where it's at. Is where
Here come the hot sleeper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Big up the crew in the area. Still have it like that. No, we don't die. Yes, we multiply. Anyone press will hear the fat lady sing. Act like you know Rico. I know what Bo don't know. Touch them up and go. Oh, ching 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 ching. Here come the hot stepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Excuse me, Mr. Officer. Still have it like that. Extraordinary, juice like a strawberry. Money to burn, baby, all of the time. Caught the fit, it's me, fit to cut the shit. Come It's a number. Still love you like that. Na 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 na. So we do it, man. Na 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 na. Hey, start like a jackrabbit, finish in front of it. I'm the 90s Jack, that's it. Understand? I'm the daddy of the Mac. Daddy is a Latin gold made me. Ain't no homie gon' play me. Top celebrity man. I'm the lyrical gangster. Excuse me, Mr. Officer. Still love you like that. No, no, we don't die. Yes, we multiply. Anyone test will hear the fat lady sing. Act like you know G-Go. I know what Bo don't know. Touch them up and go. Oh, cha-cha-ching-ching. Here come the hot stepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Big up the crew in the area. Still love you like that. Na 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 na. Yeah, man. So what do you? Na 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 na. Right? Here come the hot stepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. Big up all crew bow, yeah. Still love you like that. Here come the hot stepper. I'm the lyrical danger. Big up the crew in the area. Still love you like that. Here come the hot stepper. I'm the lyrical gangster. I'm a living, I'm a danger. Still love you like that. Hey, da 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 da. Da 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 da, da 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 da.
Yes, and that was Here Comes the Hot Stepper by Ini Kamoze. And prior we heard Bob and Marcia's Young, Gifted and Black. And kicking off today's session was African Race by Abyssinians. Stay with us, everyone. Don't go away. We'll take a quick break and we will be right back.
Hey, this is Rob Trainer from Blackwater Rising, and you're listening to CHMR FM 93.5, Newfoundland's only alternative.
This cage they built for me is unable to contain one news mind is free.
If you wake up this Sunday morning with no money in your pockets and a pounding in your brain, chances are you overdid it Saturday night. So tune in to 93.5 CHMR FM for your perfect prescription of medicinal music lovingly mixed to help ease the most wretched of post-Saturday night overindulgences. It's the Sunday Morning Hangover Cure, every Sunday, 10 a.m. and only on 93.5 CHMR FM. And if nothing else, it'll make it a little easier to get out of bed on a Sunday morning.
I'm lying here, I won't get up. The end is near, this is where it stops. And the ceiling over me is the last thing I'll ever see.
The Friday morning markout. 8 a.m. Newfoundland time or 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live on CHMR 93.5 FM.
Here among my children, waiting for the world to end.
If you're a chronic nostalgic who loves the music of Newfoundland and Labrador, tune in to the Newfound Records Radio Hour on CHMR, Saturdays at noon. Join host Wayne Tucker as he shines a light on rare gems retrieved from the vinyl deeps and supplements the music of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s with a generous sprinkling of history and trivia. Relive all kinds of local music, traditional, folk, country, pop, rock, and everything in between. So whether you're a sentimental old-timer stuck in that vinyl groove, or a newbie eager to hear hard-to-find roots music of Newfoundland and Labrador, tune in to the Newfound Records Radio Hour on Saturdays at noon, where the unexpected is the norm.
Don't give up the fight. Preacher man, don't tell me heaven is under the earth.
Hey, it's Matt Davis. I'm Jackson. And I'm Matt Lang.
You're listening to Caribbean Connections with Sarojini at CHMR Radio 93.5 FM, Bell Alliance 787, Rogers Cable 942, and CHMR.ca.
Stand up for your right. Come on, get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
Satisfied. done for you. Oh, what's done for me.
Herb is the healing of the nation. It's here with a good vibration for all man and woman. See the Jamaican flocking at the window. That make me know where is the good vibe flow. I see a bright light shining in the window. Let me know that everyone is burning slow. Ganja weed, burning tonight. Always off the herb, it's on my mind. Give me the weed, any old time. Always off the herb, it's on my mind. Rolling papers all over the table. Reggae music is playing, and setting a good vibes. Everybody is smoking and drinking, dancing, laughing, and having a good time. Ganja weed, burning tonight. Always off the earth, it's part of my life. Give me the weed, any old time. Always on the earth, it's part of my life. We got to have it. Never want it. 7 days a week we're smoking. We need some bad song, cool out, run away. Never think I would live to see today. Plenty laughter, many of joking. Everybody just cool out, everybody smoking. Ganja weed, burning tonight. Always off the herb, it's part of my life. Give me the weed, any old time. Always off the herb, it's part of my life. Yeah, we need the herb. So we want it. We can't do without it. Ganja weed, burning tonight. Always off the herb, it's on my mind. Give me the weed, any old time. Always off the herb, it's part of my life. You know, herb is the healing of the nation. Spoke by very nation, all over creation. Yeah, you know we said we need it. You know we want it.
Na 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 na, sa na 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 na. Hey yeah, each human being deserves a place to call their own. Yet so many have to journey far from home. Little children in the darkness all alone, seeking freedom. It's about time we break those borders down. There's too much segregation. We're all a part of one nation, yeah. We need to break those borders down. There's too much separation. We're all one in creation, yeah. How do you feel when you see those hungry faces? People of all ages locked up in our cages, without a home, much less salaries and wages, traveling for days in the desert to escape it, only to get denied by the ones that should have rectified. Now the people get desensitized to the refugees, them way unidentified, yeah. They deserve a place to call their own, yet so many have to journey far from home. Little children in the darkness all alone, seeking freedom. It's about time we break those borders down. There's too much segregation. We're all a part of one nation, yeah. We need to break those borders down. There's too much separation. We're all one in creation, yeah.
After them selfish decision, we're the one who suffer most. Political violence and a whole way to ghost. The war and starvation, knife and hang up in our throat. Refugees overpopulation becomes the antidote. We deserve the earth as a home, life is worth a living. Mr. Willpower, please break all the borders down for the future children. Stone Boy and Kabaka say
they deserve a place to call their own, yet so many have to journey far from home. Little children in the darkness all alone, seeking freedom. It's about time we break those borders down. There's too much segregation. We're all a part of one nation, yeah. We need to break those borders down. There's too much separation. We're all one in creation, yeah. How do you feel when you see those people starving, digging through the garbage while they live in lavish? What if life was a school without no classes, learning from each other with no teachers or no bosses? Yet the system gets intensified, and all the cities getting gentrified. Poor people existence denied, but the Rasta man come here so to testify, yeah, that we deserve a place to call our own. Yet so many have to journey far from home. Little children in the darkness all alone, seeking freedom. It's about time we break those borders down. There's too much segregation. We're all a part of one nation, yeah. We need to break those borders down. There's too much separation. We're all one in creation, yeah.
That was Borders by Kabaka Pyramid and Stone Beway. Before, it was Jamaican Canadian living in Montreal and Ja Kada Ganja Weed. And opening up the segment was Carleen Davis and Stealing Love. Thank you for staying with us, but don't go away. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back.
Every second, someone flees their home due to natural disasters. The Arctic ice that regulates our planet's weather is vanishing. That means floods, famine, and more are on the rise. But there's a simple solution, and you have the right to know. My name is Parvati. Please join me in creating a healthy future with MAPS, the Marine Arctic Peace Sanctuary. Get involved at parvati.org, Parvati.org. It literally means the world.
Mothers, yours may be part of the 72%. Did you know that 72% of all Canadians with Alzheimer's disease are women? Take a moment, learn the 10 warning signs. Talk to the Alzheimer's Society. We can help, and you can help us. Visit alzheimer.ca and donate today.
A friendly reminder that there are other humans with thoughts and feelings. They should be respected no matter what size, shape, color, or gender. This public service announcement is brought to you by CHMR.
Hey everyone, it's Zach Snow from your Celtic Wake Up. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed all of our lives and the way we do our daily routines. It is a very challenging and stressful time for all of us. Are you looking for a show to escape from all of that stressful news? Well, The Celtic Wake Up is here for you. Join me Mondays from 8 to 10 a.m. for 2 great hours of Newfoundland and Irish traditional music. Start your morning off the right way with the award-winning Celtic Wake Up, bringing people together through these tough times. Only on 93.5 CHMR FM and online at chmr.ca.
Wake the village and tell everybody, man, woman, and picnic. It's folk song time. It's time to wine. Hey,
Welcome to Caribbean Connections, y'all. Your weekly dose of Caribbean vibes featuring poetry, cricket commentary, special guests, and more. Don't touch that dial and stay tuned for 2 hours of great Caribbean programming.
morning, neighbor, morning. I don't want your conniving morning. When you been a group home, you not been tell me morning. But now because you money down, you hustle to tell me morning. Why? Gio, go girl, away you go. Lady Bunting, walk home, yeah. Why, Rich? How you doing? Albion, you too. You know Pablo? Hey, yeah, man.
Are you
Here's your cricket report. Despite most of the first 2 days being lost to rain in the first test match between West Indies and Zimbabwe at the Queen Sports Club in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, it turned out to be an eventful and often tense game. Choosing to bat first, Windies captain Craig Brathwaite and his new opening partner, Tejnarain Chanderpaul, put on a massive of 336 before Brathwaite fell LBW to Masekela. It was the first time a West Indian opening pair had passed the 300-run mark and eclipsed the previous record of 298 held by Desmond Haynes and Gordon Greenidge. In an effort to secure quick runs before the declaration, the Windies' middle order collapsed in the face of an outstanding spell of leg spin from Brandon Matuva, who picked up a career-best 5 for 140 in only his third test match. West Indies declared on 447 for 6, with Chanderpaul converting his maiden test century also in his third match to a double to finish on 207 not out, surpassing his father Shivnarine Chanderpaul's best test score of 203 not out. Zimbabwe got off to a brilliant start with debutant opener Innocent Kea scoring 67, a patient knock of 137 not out from former England batsman Gary Ballance, playing in his first test for his home country, guided Zimbabwe past the follow on target. Matuva continued his dream debut by following up his 5-wicket haul with an important half-century at the bottom of the innings. 50s by Raymond Reefer and Jermaine Blackwood allowed the Windies to declare at 203 for 6 in their second innings, leaving Zimbabwe a target of 272 to win in a 1.5 sessions. Gudakesh Moti, playing in his second test, added a final bit of excitement to the proceedings. His 24 overs of left-hand spin gave the Zimbabwe dressing room a scare as he took 4 wickets for 50 runs, but the hosts were able to get to 134 for 6 and hang on to secure the draw.
It's that time again. The biggest party of sport is back. The defending champion is back. TK, are you ready? It's tell them it's wicked, 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 wicked. Super good boy, tell them it's wicked, 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 wicked. Even Bella, tell them it's wicked, 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 wicked. All I take it as a east, west, he's the champions, north, south, he's the champions, all, down, he's the champions. So we tell them this, we say east, west, he's the champions, north, south, he's the champions, all, down, he's the champions. So we tell them this, you know that we run the roads, represent the country when we board them out. That's when we board them out. We stop them out one by one. The other teams can't touch me 'cause we board them out. That's when we board them. Darren Bravo, Colin Monroe, Dina Shamden, and Chrislin. Darren Bravo, Colin Monroe, Dina Shamden, and Chrislin. Take care. This is for you.
And that was the Great Vibes by DJ Bravo. Bowl them out. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Hi, I'm Jalen Taylor, and I would like to remind you to not drink and drive because many people lose their lives every day, so please be safe and responsible. This public service announcement is brought to you by CHMR.
To be a mentor, you don't have to have some special talent. That's why we're having some real-life mentors sing for us. Hit it, guys.
Row, row, row your boat, gently down the stream. Life is but a dream.
Thanks, that was awful. So remember, to mentor a child, you don't have to be perfect.
Row, row, row your...
Please stop. You just have to call Save the Children toll-free at 1-877-BA-MENTOR.
A message brought to you by Save the Children and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Vicki Morgan.
And I'm Josh Morgan.
And we're Mulberry Creek. Listen to the Mulberry Creek Hour on CHMR 93.5 at 5 o'clock on Tuesday afternoons or anywhere you get your favorite podcast.
We interview musicians from all over the world, and we're really funny.
I think we're funny.
I think we're funny.
And we do acoustic tunes from Mulberry Creek and from the musicians, and it's a laugh.
So listen to the Mulberry Creek Hour anywhere you get your podcasts and here on CHMR.
Are you the kind of person who yells at the radio, "Don't tell me about the artist, I don't care where they grew up, just play the song"? If that's the case, then don't listen to my program. I'm Ivan Emke. On my show, Roots and Branches and Beyond, I like to explain where the sounds come from. So if you'd like to know a bit about what you're listening to, every Saturday morning at 11, CHMR 93.5 FM, music that knows where it's from.
Vous êtes branchés sur CHMR 93.5 FM, 103,7 sur le câble. La station alternative la plus sexy à Saint-Jean-de-Terre-Neuve.
Real time. Real audio. Real radio. www.mun.ca/CHMR.
Black Skin by Peter Jailal. My Santanton teacher read me the story, Scrubbing the Negro. And whenever I see a tub of boiling water, I cringe and I cry. Since ABC days, you see, I hated me. I always wanted to be clear. Clear, clear. White, white. Whiter than Artie milk. Not black like a tar or black like bygone. Black like the ace of spades or black like the black foul shit. Low nation chamar. I cried, but I tried. Used White Pond's cold cream, Menen's talcum baby powder, stayed in the shade to wait and wonder. And when nobody is looking, I peep under my arm just to see the progress of my gradual change to whiteness. When all my efforts failed, I moved to cold white Canada. But when I returned home for a visit, they say, "So you come back? Look at you. You mean for tell we you live so long outside and you even catch little color?"
I'm bound to walk with the sun on my face again. Kiss kitties, singing away my pain. Ghosting across the Northland with my head up in a maze. Brown man chasing out the devil from Empire Days. So long, trying to find my head and soul. So long for my wheel to roll. Dreams of gold and Shirley Temple, dead forevermore. John Wayne, Edward G. and Cagney won't fool me no more. Rising from cruel days of chain and flame, Caribbean man, think I know your name. And I will search to find the splinters of your ancient tree. Round the island wheel of jade they call Caribbean Sea. Jamaica down to Guyana shores, you know, was red man's land not so long ago. So all who live there now never forget the ancient way. It's Siba land, Piaima land you're building on today. If you're trying to catch the sun, Bushman will show you how that magic's done. Town men take away the blindfold, throw it from your eyes. Don't you dance like puppets underneath Caribbean skies. With the sun on my face again, I'm bound to walk with the sun on my face again. I'm bound to walk with the sun on my face again.
And the poem we just heard was read by Didan Ashanta. She was reading Black Skin by Peter Jailal, followed up with Guyanese Canadian living in British Columbia, David Campbell and Caribbean Man. We'll be right back, folks. Stay with us.
When you wish for something wonderful to happen.
What is the power of a wish?
Sometimes it can make you forget
about the needles and the pain
and get through this thing.
Wishes are what we do.
Forget about being stuck inside.
Laugh with my family.
Go somewhere really amazing and get through this thing.
The Children's Wish Foundation of Canada. Call 1-888-267-WISH or visit childrenswish.ca today.
Living on free food tickets, born in the milk from a hole in the roof where the rain came through. What can you do? Tears from your little sister, crying because she doesn't have a dress without a patch for the party to go. Oh, but you know, she get by, cause she's living in the love of the common people. Smiles through the heart of a family man. That is gonna buy her a dream to cling to. Mama's gonna love her just as much as she can, and she can. It's a good thing you don't have bus fare. It would fall through the hole in your pocket and you lose it in the snow on the ground. You gotta walk in the town and find a job, trying to keep your hands warm. But the hole in the shoe let the snow come through and chills you to the bone. So you better go home where it's warm. You can live in the love of the common people. Smiles through the heart of the family man. That is gonna buy you a dream to cling to. Mama's gonna love you just as much as she can, and she can. And a fit and the chill stay away. Take them in stride, the family ground. You know that faith is your foundation. Oh, let the love and the warm conversation, boy, don't forget to pray. Just make it strong where you belong, so you can live in the love of the common people. Smile through the heart of a family man. That is gonna buy you a dream to cling to. Mama's gonna love you just as much as she can, and she can. Living in the love of a common people. Smiles through the heart of a family man. That is gonna buy you a dream to cling to.
So that was Junior Biles and Beat Down Babylon. And before we heard the one and only, the great vibes of Nikki Thomas and Love of the Common People. Well, folks, we have come to the end of today's program, but don't despair. We're going to be back next week to celebrate another day of Black History Month here. So stick with us. Join us again next week, same time, 1 p.m. in Newfoundland, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Same place. You could reach us on the local dial, 93.5 FM, Rogers Cable, 942, and Bell Alliant, 787 on your TV, or everywhere and anywhere, anytime at www.chmr.ca. Stay well, be kind, take care of yourselves and of each other. And we're going to have Queen Africa and Lioness on the Rise to take us out today. See you next week, and bye for now.
Are you ready? 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 Are you ready?
When the roll is called out, I'll be standing taller to face the darkest and the hardest of times. We'll be taking care of all the children thereof, but if it's required, we'll be on the front line. You can call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. Lioness is on the rise, don't you ever have doubt. Never say never, willingness forever to fight and be strong. Once it's for better, I'll write every letter and moving right along. And I'll roll with the punches, accept changes, work with the formula, do what I have to do, and call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. Lioness is on the rise, don't you ever have doubt. When you are willing to serve, we have room to observe, to see if you can walk the walk you took. Let me give you my word, my voice must be heard. Bravery is a piece of my heart. Call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. A lioness is on the rise, don't ever have no doubt. When the roll is called up, we'll be standing taller to face the darkest and the hardest of times. We'll be taking care of all the children thereof, but if it's required, we'll be on the front line. You can call me by my name, I am ready to roll. Once the rules remain the same, how the story's been told. Story's been told. Call me anytime, never cop out. A lioness is on the road.
This is 93.5 CHMR FM.
This is Tune In, Tune Out Radio with Matthew Matcham.
And Sadie with the tunes.
Today's dynamic duo is